Give me death!
Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is May 20th, 2015, and this is just a short video as the others that I've been putting up lately, just to let you know that I am out and about. I wanted you to know I was on the Pete Santilli Show today. The link is down below, and the primary subject is Jade Helm because I am very concerned about what this means in the overall picture. Whenever militaries do exercises, it's to show the enemy that, or the people they consider to be the enemy, that they are prepared. And number two, a drill covers for an actual kickoff of an operation. And all militaries in all countries around the world know this. And we as citizens should understand that there is a problem with a unconventional warfare psychological operation being conducted on American soil, especially at this expansive type of nature that this thing is. It says a lot, and I hope that looking at the big picture you understand that. One person wrote into one of my videos and said, as a lot have, oh, nothing's going to happen, I'll see you in September. Hey, my friends, it's already happened. Tyranny is here. It's just a matter of semantics, and I've said that before. How far are they going to push it? Well, it's going to go a long way, a lot further than it's gone yet. Will it happen this summer? I don't know, but the prepositioning of equipment and personnel and operational capabilities is definitely occurring. Is it for civil unrest? Is it for ISIS? Is it for this? Is it for that? Those are probably the cover reasons, the provocations that they can get started to justify it. But in the end, they've already said who they're after. Christians, vets, gun owners, basically people who believe and sustain the Constitution of the United States and the principles as they were enumerated in the Declaration of Independence. In other words, people who have the law of liberty, the love of liberty in their hearts. That's who they're after. You've got to understand that. So getting back on what we're discussing here on Pete Santilli, I want you to know that there have already been operational procedures against individuals by members of the Jade Helm military and interagency people that are involved in this. There have been a number of us who have had encounters with them within the last 2 weeks. And it's not something that's coming in July. It's already here. They're already doing these things. All right, and I hope you understand that this is being an alarmist. You know, I have situational awareness. I was trained in situational awareness, and I'm hoping that you people, and I talk about that a little bit in this interview with Pete, that you apply situational awareness, learn about the countermeasures against surveillance, and do as much as you can, because they are doing it. It's what the fusion centers are about. It's about the NSA collecting data. General Cleveland said he's going to, what did he say? He's going to operationalize the homeland. That's it. They're talking about doing all of this, and they're not going after the ISIS camps. They're not. The borders are wide open. They're not going after the criminals. They've said who they believe are their enemy, and that's the people, as I've said just a few minutes ago, that believe in the Constitution and the principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Don't want to belabor that. Again, I want to say that there have been some indications, and not indications but actual proof, that the collection of data is now being checked by on-the-ground Recon teams. At the very least, that's what they're doing. They're basically looking at certain individuals at this point, and they're making sure that the data that they have on them matches their day-to-day habits, what they do. It's happening. It's happening right now. Does that mean they're going to grab them? It could just be an exercise on different people to see what happens. But remember, once you plan on something, once these people are get it down to the brass tacks, they can make their move. And the NDAA taking people off the streets provisions may happen. It's unconstitutional, it's illegal, it's immoral, it's criminal, but our government is illegal, immoral, and criminal. All you gotta do is look at the news today and see how many things are going on. from Fast and Furious that's happened to the situation with the IRS, the situation with the NSA wiretapping, their metadata collection, the situation with Benghazi. I mean, I can't even name it all in a short video. So again, they are out reconning, verifying their data that they've collected on everybody through these spying programs. They're exercising the fusion centers, not just on the exercise people that are in the exercise, but on actual targets. I know that for a fact. Okay, so just a warning to everybody: increase your situational awareness, understand about surveillance countermeasures, do as much as you can. And you guys and girls, again, I don't particularly like the girls in the military, and I always say that, but look, you've got to understand, you've got to apply the principles of the Constitution, even if your bosses will not, because we're going down. This whole thing is going to turn into a Stasi state, and then worse. You have to apply the principles of the Constitution, unless, of course, you're actually a co-conspirator. You're actually inside the group that wants this to happen, that wants to take this country down, at least the country that has long stood for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's your moral responsibility. It's your spiritual responsibility. And if you turn your back on it and merely follow orders, you will be judged by the great eternal. You will. Whether you believe that there's an actual entity like that or just the power of the universe, the idea of karma, if you will. It will come back on you for doing this. Don't. Stand up for the constitutional principles and the Declaration of Independence, those principles. Read it. I'll bet you most of you guys in the military and the police have never read it. Read them, please. Read them. And then act accordingly, unless you don't believe in those principles. At least then you won't be a hypocrite if you go out and do the things that they want you to do. All right. Again, the point of this video, and basically the interview with Pete, is the fact that they are exercising on individuals. They're on the ground teams checking the data that they've been collecting on people, figuring out their habits, verifying by reconnaissance. Will they grab people? I don't know, but the capability will be there, and you must apply. If you're active, if you're out here trying to, tell the world about what's happening, you're a target. So, situational awareness and surveillance countermeasures. Maybe even escape and evasion. All right, I hope you listen to the show. Again, it's on the link below. Out here.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to segue. By the way, if you haven't heard of Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter, you're about to hear from him right now. We have an important update. Everyone is really, really concerned. Even our politicians are speaking out. But, you've got politicians like, Ted Cruz. Basically, they're a whole bunch of bandwagoners. I would say the only person right now politically that's weighing in on Jade Helm with any sincerity is Louis Gohmert. Louis Gohmert actually came out during the truckers' ride for the Constitution and spoke out when the government was being shut down and wanted to open up that Veterans Memorial. You know what? I stand with that. Louis Gohmert was probably one of the only voices when we actually participated in the truckers' ride for the Constitution, and then got those barricades and brought them down to the White House when we opened up the Veterans Memorial. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter has been doing an outstanding job of covering to the best of his ability what's going on with Jade Helm and how important it is for us to recognize that this is psychological warfare being perpetrated upon the American people. He's a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, 28 years, who served as in various capacities, military police, military intelligence positions around the globe. He brings his unique experience, training, education, and spiritual insights, really important, spiritual insights to bear in analyzing important issues and trends in the United States, especially at this time in our nation's history. and he joins me right now. Lieutenant Colonel Potter, there's a lot of stuff, couple of things that we're going to cover today. Number one, we're getting disturbing, and we're going to call it intel reports, not just one, a couple of them, where we've got covert operatives right now that are dressing up as electric service workers out there. You've been on top of this, Lieutenant Colonel Potter. Welcome back. Let's have this discussion about what's going on with Jade Helm. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Pete. I guess I can say thanks. I'm not sure that we should be thankful for it, but it's good that we can still talk about it, that they haven't shut us down completely.
Yeah, I was saying that earlier, that what little bit of our First Amendment we have left allows us to speak the way we're going to speak and the way we have been speaking. I mean, it's the last bit of freedoms that we have. Let's speak out while we can, right? Because even that's going away. It's being suppressed. It's being throttled. And people like you are being intimidated, aren't they? So as not to speak out.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things we need to address. We can, because on my YouTube channel I'm getting people. Same thing was happening with some other events that were going on like a year ago, where people say, well, nothing's going to happen, I'll see you in September, nothing's going to happen, everything will be the same. And they don't understand that the country is already in the grips of tyranny. It's already there, and these last few little things that are going on are just to make it easier, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about that. I want you in our segment here, okay? Because you already know. I mean, our life. We almost lost our lives together back at Bundy Ranch. So it's not like that. I don't know, like, and trust you. I have a lot of trust in you. I have a lot of trust in your perspective here. I want you to kind of guide this conversation here, and then I'll bring up the important points that we need to discuss. Let's back up before we talk about the covert operatives acting as electric company workers. Let's talk about the threats of intimidation, you being followed because you've been very, very outspoken. As you already know, the last time you were on the show, well over a couple 100,000 hits. And that's just direct on YouTube. That doesn't include the embeds. There were potentially millions of people that listened to your words. Shortly thereafter, what happened when you started coming out about Jade Helm?
Yeah, I've had a problem, and I'll just say it. Normally, I'm careful about where I say I am, not because they don't know where I am because of my phone or whatever else that they use, but just because of the nature of things. Right now, I'm in Utah, and everybody should know that the largest NSA facility with the most peeping power is at a place called Bluffdale, Point of the Mountain, which right now I'm about 40 miles from. And basically out here, that thing is up and running now completely. But a year ago, I'm sure that they had a lot of people that they didn't have a whole lot of work for, and so they were giving them other tasks. And I'll just say that they made themselves known to me on various occasions, and it wasn't a very pleasant situation. I don't want to belabor that point. I don't want to make it sound like there's spy spoof stuff or whatever, because really what it is intimidation. That's what it's all about. So what occurred, and that was after the Boston bombing stuff primarily, but now we've got this Jade Helm thing, and, I was in psychological operations for I took the course. I was involved in some other intelligence stuff, and so I recognize it when I see it. And when this whole the Jade Helm thing came out, I got very concerned, of course. And after I started looking at the request for realistic military training, and then seeing all the other SOF and SOCOM documents and FAMs and all of those things, especially since the way the government has been talking about who their real enemy is, the un-American constitutionalists, gun owners, vets, and that kind of thing, and the fact that they're helping out. I mean, I hope the American people are starting to realize that we're helping ISIS. We've been battering. It's got to be obvious, especially with the information coming out now. But beside all of that, we covered the Jade, and I'll be doggone.
Wait. Hold on one second. I want you to comment on this. This is really important. We can touch on it and move on. All right, but is it not? And everyone needs to be wide awake to the following: when ISIS in the hundreds is putting their Toyotas and their black flags and all of their troops in a straight line and parading around in Iraq. And then it goes on Fox News. What's wrong with that picture? If they really were our enemy, we would have the military capabilities with one drone strike to take out that entire freaking convoy of ISIS paraders, wouldn't we?
That's exactly right. And what are they doing driving around in MRAPs and other armored Humvees and stuff like that? I mean, it used to be that when we left an area and we were afraid of our equipment being commandeered by the enemy, that here's a real special forces operation. They go in there and blow the stuff up. So why is it that we're failing in these missions? And I'll tell you why we're failing in these missions. There was a general that came out not too long ago and said we've lost every war since Korea. And why? Because we're supposed to. And people try to say, and here I am getting upset again, right, Pete? I did.
Yeah, no, please do, and don't apologize. Yep.
Okay. Well, the politicians won't let us do our job. You know what? It's true, but that's because it's all part of the military-industrial complex. The generals at the top and the people that run the military-industrial complex, the banks, the arms makers and their representatives in DOD and the Pentagon and the government all want perpetual war. If we win a war, that's not a good thing. So they've got to keep us in the standing. Basically, we've lost Iraq. And I've had personal friends that died there.
Yeah.
And what did they die for? They died for bankers. They didn't die for liberty. They didn't die for democracy and freedom. Yeah. They didn't keep Al-Qaeda from getting our freedoms because Al-Qaeda wasn't after them. Our government was after our freedoms. So I'm really getting upset here. So, yes.
Well, you should be upset. You should also be upset at the mainstream media that broadcasts a Pentagon official saying, well, there's nothing to worry about as far as Ramadi's really not that important. That's a slap in the face to those that died in Ramadi. We've got a mother of a Navy SEAL Team 6 member.
Exactly. Yep. Then we should say then they should say the same thing, and they probably will eventually, about all of Iraq. Then what were we doing there in the first place? And, we can go back as to whether or not it was right to go in. And I want to speak exactly to them right now because I'm a vet, and anybody who's a vet is in danger. And if they haven't figured that out now, they need to. We're made to go and fight these wars for the bankers and for the military-industrial complex, not for the principles of the Constitution. And because of that, we are going to fail because Now, the bad thing is, and here we are back to Jade Helm again. I got to swing back around this so I don't forget. Yes. Pete, my age is starting to show up.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
We have people in Special Operations Forces and in what they call in the Jade Helm documents the sister agencies. I forget exactly what they call anyway, the other agencies that are involved, which shows that the thing is for the U.S. anyway. I mean, they're dealing with the FBI, the DHS, local law enforcement, sheriffs, public officials, et cetera, et cetera. This is about doing a psychological operation on the American people. Well,
they refer to them as interagency.
There we go. That was the name I was looking for, interagency.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cleveland came out here not too long ago, the commander of the Armed Special Operations Force, and talked about Operation the Homeland. Oh, my gosh. Here we have the NSA collecting all this data. It's all being turned over to the military-industrial complex, specifically the DOD and these interagency tasks, and it's being used to come after the American people. Oh, we're looking for ISIS here? Hey, why don't they go look at the ISIS compound in Texas and in Pennsylvania and in those places and monitor them? No, they're coming after, and they say that's constitutionalist.
Yep, stay right there. Stay right there, Roy. I have to. Lieutenant Colonel Potter, I'm sorry. I called you Roy, but Lieutenant Colonel Potter is going to join me after this short 2-minute break. You guys don't go away. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about, by the way, whenever you want to take it to that report that came out on DC Clothesline. I actually have that right in front of me as well, so I can read the excerpts that came off of that thing. There's not just one report. There's multiple reports of covert posing as electrical company workers in Texas. We have those reports coming out of Texas. We'll talk with Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter right after this. Okay, we got lots of important news to cover. I'm going to, Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter joins me for this entire hour. Hopefully, can you stay with me until the top of the hour? Because we have a lot to cover here. Okay, pick up where you left off.
Okay, I'm going to calm down. I just want to speak. I said I was going to speak to the military, to the police, and anybody who knows anybody working in those fields. Okay. You are being used right now to support an anti-constitutional agenda, an anti-freedom agenda, in fact, an anti-life and mankind, human being agenda. And if you don't realize it, I suggest that if you've never done it, go read the Constitution. That's your number one, the Declaration of Independence. That's your number one assignment. You've got to do that. The second thing is this. For the vets and for everybody else out there, the activists like you, Pete, and I know I don't have to tell you this, but I want to make it so that everybody understands something. This thing that General Cleveland said about operationalizing the homeland is critical. Okay, they are consolidating all of their information, and now that they've got the information in a consolidated form, they are now going to verify it by on-the-ground recon. Mm-hmm. So you need to keep the situational awareness around you. You need to be constantly applying situational awareness because these people are out on the key people in this whole thing that we're talking about. People like me, people like you, people, like Michael Savage, whoever. Certainly Louis Gohmert. I mean, they have people now that are watching them. So keep your situational awareness, keep your eyes and ears open.
Yeah, now I mentioned Louis Gohmert, by the way. I don't know if you heard me mention Louis Gohmert. I think he's probably one of the very few voices of reason and logic and truthfulness out there right now. And I hate to prop up any position right now. I don't trust any of them. But Louis Gohmert seems to be speaking some truth, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I was totally surprised because I thought that all of our reps have basically been bought off by the military-industrial complex, the banks, Rothschild, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So he's really put himself out there. I believe he's sincere. From what I can tell, I believe he's sincere. Maybe he's one of the people that is finally seeing the danger in all this. It's not that they might go operational against the people with Jade Helm this summer. I don't know that. But there is a thing about military exercises, Pete, and you know this as well as I do. The nations conduct military exercises in foreign areas to tell those countries that, look, we're capable of responding, okay? We're showing off our muscle. And plus, they'll do military exercises prior to, in conjunction with an operational plan where they do plan on conducting actual war.
Bingo. I was just going to ask you that. Right? Have wars always preceded an operational exercise?
Well, if you mean...
have wars have been preceded by an operational exercise?
Exactly. It's always the case. Now, so here we have this whole Jade Helm thing going on. I've been watching them pre-position equipment all over the country, okay? And you probably have. They're not going to do it right now. They're getting ready to. You see the media saying what they're saying. You see the military. Look, Lieutenant Colonel Astoria there in Texas along with Thomas Meade. Those guys, denying that there are preparations for martial law when it's in their own FMs, their manuals, their regulations, their training. So say, why would they deny that? Well, they're either denying it because they're incompetent and they don't know anything, or they're traitors, okay, and they're liars. Those are the only two possibilities. So, yes, I realize that order maintenance is important. We could have race wars, which, of course, I think are being promulgated and by the government, especially the Justice Department. Yeah. We could have a financial collapse. But this positioning of psychological warfare and interventional warfare operations is to grab people that have answers to the problems so that the powers that be can stay in power. That's what this is about.
That's right. Now,
linked up to this. The guys in the lower echelons probably are compartmentalized. They don't understand what's happening. I guarantee you that the majority of officers above the rank of major and the majority of NCOs over E7 have an inkling of what's going on if they are not actually care of the whole situation.
Yes, sir. Now let's talk about the importance of counterintelligence, or we the people coming together to share as much information as possible, and that's happening. You shared with me a report. As a matter of fact, the way it came, I think it came to you verbally, and then you asked me to see if I could confirm the validity of the report, and I actually went to DC Clothesline. And on DC Clothesline, here is the. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put it up on the screen here so that everybody on our YouTube will see this. Okay, here is the report from DC Clothesline. It actually details 2 emails that were sent to the writer of this article. And this segment was titled "The Following People Must Be Crazy According to Fox and Friends." Here's how it was titled. Take a look at the following 2 emails sent to me. These are typical of the endless stream of emails I'm receiving every day. On May 14th at approximately 6 p.m., my 4 dogs began barking in a loud and angry fashion. I stepped onto my front porch and saw 2 men about to enter my property through my yard gate. I ordered them to stop and asked who they were. They replied that they were from the electric company and they needed to talk to me because my contract was about to expire. My contract with TXU expires on May 1st, 2016. I asked what electric company, and they said something that sounded like Real Electric Company. I ordered them to leave immediately, and after some hesitation, they began walking down my 50-yard long driveway. Here are the incident facts. 2 men in their mid to late 20s, in excellent shape. They did not drive a vehicle down my driveway. They walked. They were wearing navy blue shorts, a white pullover shirt with blue stripes, and some sort of navy blue patch. It was at 6 p.m. One man was African American, the other was Mexican or Middle Eastern. They carried paperwork or a briefcase. They had nothing. Oh, they carried no paperwork or briefcase. They had nothing. I live near Big Springs, Texas, and know that the NSA is aware of my disgust with the president and government. My phone calls have been interrupted on several occasions by the NSA. After they started walking away, I went in and got my camera, and when gone. That was one report. Here's the next one. I need to convey this to everybody because the details of this thing can be shared with everyone. You need to keep your eyes out. Thanks for all that you do. I pray for the safety of you and your family. I am a widow, and on May 13th at 5 p.m., I caught 3 men snooping around my property. I live in Big Springs area, and these kinds of sightings are common. She was a 68-year-old woman who identified 2 men who she believed to be Jade Helmers because they were dressed in the same white T-shirt, the same blue shorts, except this 68-year-old woman met them with a shotgun, okay? All right, so 2 independent reports. Now, when we come back from this next break, Lieutenant Colonel Potter, give us some instructions, some guidance, give our listening audience guidance as to how we need to observe and report and share this information so that we can counter these covert operatives that are not going to be coming to us in military uniform. They're going to be coming to us dressed in electrical uniforms. Okay, so there's a lot of discussions out there, and a lot of people saying, oh my God, it's just fear porn, and they're calling Alex Jones a fear porn monger. And Alex Jones, through the work of Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, I think they've done a pretty good job of bringing Jade Helm into the mainstream consciousness. Okay, so we're not going to take that away from them. But we do need to emphasize, above and beyond what Alex Jones has been talking about, really overemphasize the significance of this not just being a military operation. This is a PSYOP, a psychological warfare tactic that's being employed upon the American people for stuff that is going to take place here in the United States of America. No doubt about it. Now, how do we counter this stuff? We have to share information because, Lieutenant Colonel Potter, tell me if you agree with me. If they were to put troops in every single city and spread them out through all these states that Jade Helm is taking place, they would stand out like a sore thumb. They wouldn't look like the civilian population. They have no choice right now to perform a military psychological operations exercise covertly and have them try to blend in with our population, don't they? They can't do it within uniform, can they?
Primarily used for the transportation after, that they perform the operation. I'll just put it that way. I think what I would say about it is this. I wouldn't have tunnel vision. Don't be myopic. Electrical uniforms, that's just one method. They might just be in regular civilian clothes, and they may not even be military. Don't forget, this is a huge operation involving DHS, FBI, probably the DEA, certainly the NSA and the CIA. All of the stops against using these techniques against Americans are gone now. The Americans have no protection against this. I mean, the Constitution is their protection, but it's being overridden. So what I'm saying is, and it really can't be. And if we stood our ground, we could manage this. But I'm afraid the American people, by and large, are just too dumbed down. So it comes down to individual situational awareness, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. Don't be myopic. Anything that seems out of place. Anybody you see more than once, and they have situations where they can follow you using, of course, several operatives, and you never see the same person twice. And I don't want to sound like this is going on all the time, but some of the top people that they consider to be problems in this arena, in other words, people again like you, Pete, they are looking at you. They're not just looking at your digital data. They're not just looking at you know, your the stuff that you do online or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're actually on the ground now. And my experience here last week, I think you know what I'm talking about, proves it. Mm-hmm. They are out there and they are checking their information. So we need, and I wish I could be a little more, I don't want to say I'm not brave about it, but at the same time, I don't want to sound, you know, frankly, I don't know why they give me so much trouble. I mean, this has been going on too many times. But I think the bottom line is this, that you're right. We need to share the information. You need to understand surveillance countermeasures. And the surveillance countermeasures are basically that you don't go to the same place twice in a row, all right? Mm-hmm. You don't have habits. Break up whatever habits you have as much as you can, and do something different at a different time of day. Always be aware of the things around you. I'm not saying they're going to grab you, but it's important to understand that these exercises and deployments on American soil are no different in purpose than military exercises overseas to show muscle, use intimidation, and most importantly, to be forward deployed prior to hostilities. Mm-hmm. Whoever they think the enemy is, and we already know they said that's constitutionalist, Christians, you know, et cetera, et cetera. The U.S. government knows that people are fed up and waking up to its travesties, its lies, its usurpation and abuse of power. Bundy Ranch was an example of that. Mm-hmm. Texas tried to do it with the TSA groping here a few years ago, and of course that got blown over. Utah's done it by saying that they want to have their land back, or that they're taking the land back that the feds have tried to usurp. I still don't see any muscle in Utah trying to force that, but the point is that the legislature did declare it, and that's interesting that Utah was considered a hostile territory as a result, not to mention other things. So what do? Yes, we should share information. Again, I'm sorry I didn't do that to the point that I may should have done it, because, again, I don't want to make it sound like, you know, I even hate to say it this way, like I've got some special problem with them.
No, you know what? Let me mention something. Let me ask you this, okay? Because we know, you and I know, that obviously they need to practice in using the technology, using the various means of technology that we use to communicate. I'm going to use this example. Tell me if this is a possibility. Let's say, for instance, even for the purposes of practicing, that they said, you know what? Today, here's the training exercise. We're going to mess with Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter. We're going to call him for the purposes. For the purposes of this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to do an interagency. We're going to make sure everyone's on the same page, the same time, and almost real time for this exercise. We're going to use Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter, and we're going to analyze his Facebook activity, his YouTube activity. We're going to analyze his text messaging, his cell phone. We're going to use everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to be able to instantaneously broadcast to all of these agencies what his whereabouts are. We're going to tell the special forces operatives to get in there and dress up like electrical service workers. Let's completely immerse him in Jade Helm and see if we can do it real time using all of the tools we have access to, and just do it for training purposes. Do you think that's a real possibility that they could be doing that?
You absolutely hit the nail on the head, Pete. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And that's what the fusion centers are for.
Right.
Okay, so absolutely that's what they can do. And if all of a sudden whoever is the guy who's commanding this, that's controlling it, and they see an opportunity to take somebody, right, I think they'll do it.
So they will have practiced with Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter, but they say, you know what, we already practiced it. We saw that we could screw with Roy Potter. And by the way, we also measured his response when he got back on social media to see what the impact was of our PSYOP, and he was really pissed off. And let's step up the pace and make him go absolutely batshit freaking crazy. Let's now take out, right now, let's take out Roy Potter.
Unfortunately, they're way behind schedule. I'm already batshit crazy.
No, but you know what? That's a part of it. Let's do a PSYOP on Pete Santilli, make him go crazy. Let's make him make a few mistakes, like broadcasting on his text to Deborah Jordan that he's going down to the grocery store. And we got him, and we can freaking grab him off the street. He sent out a text message. We got 3 agencies involved. We screwed with him. Let's freaking NDAA the guy and take him off the street, because they've already practiced it, right?
Exactly. That's the point. They're pre-deployed. They've got the tools. They've got the will, and it could happen at any time. Will it happen this summer? I don't know. But I do know this, that I understand what exercises are. Mm-hmm. I understand pre-positioning and pre-deployment, and you don't do that unless you're planning on using it.
That's right. That's right. Now, why are they doing it? There's a lot of discussion out there. We already know that we're in economic collapse. So for people to say, well, the reason why is because of economic collapse, well, you haven't been paying attention if you think that it's for some future economic collapse, because we're right in the middle of one. Civil unrest. They're doing it because of civil unrest. Well, guess what? Civil unrest, we're right in the middle of that. We've got cities that have already been practicing civil unrest. They've already learned how to install martial law within a matter of hours. They already have their 21st century policing task force already in place. The infrastructure is there. We are in a full-blown collapse right now. Civil unrest will come this summer. Okay, listen, we're going to segue however you choose to do that. Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter, I want you to guide us, all right, in the following way. Militarily, okay, like if you and I were to sit here and say, let's arm up, let's go, let's go freaking go meet guns with guns, we'd lose that battle militarily. This is not a military battle of the United States of America against the U.S. military, the greatest fighting force on the planet. But this is also above and beyond that. It doesn't mean that we have to give up. In fact, I believe, and I think you believe as well, now is the time where we really must go to our spirituality, our belief in God, and realize that this is the ultimate, this is the spiritual battle of Armageddon at this point in time, here in the United States of America and throughout the world for that matter. This is much bigger than just a military conflict between the U.S. and its citizens, isn't it?
I feel the same way you do, that that this is a spiritual war that's now, it's always been global, but now they are really tightening down the screws, and it's a war against life itself. And I think probably your listeners who've heard me before, that I do have roots in what is called the Judeo-Christian tradition, and I don't expect anybody to follow that. I don't demand that, but I use it as a guide for myself. And there are so many, especially in the prophecies of Isaiah and Jeremiah and Malachi, that are so important. Not to mention, the New Testament book of Revelations and all that. It says right there that the powers that be will come after the true believers, and I don't think you need to even call yourself a Christian. If you believe in what James calls the perfect law of liberty, if you believe in the liberty of the individual soul, if you believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is really just another way of saying what Jesus is quoted as saying in the New Testament, that I would that you would have life and that more abundantly, the truth shall make you free. Those are all the same words. Mm-hmm. And there's a war against that today. Despite that, people look, did we go and free from tyranny and despotism? No, we made it worse. And I'm talking about NATO, I'm talking about the coalition. Of course, I'm talking about the United States government. We're not out there giving freedom and democracy to anybody. We're helping to take it away on a national level. And the scriptures, at least the Judeo-Christian scriptures, if you apply them that way, say that they are going to do that, to the point that they will assent to the beheadings of Christians. And we've seen that already. It's really interesting that Obama never says anything about that. But he doesn't want to criticize, and I'm not against Islam if somebody wants to believe in that. But anybody who takes their religion and says, you have to obey my religion or I'm going to kill you, that's wrong. And he's not saying anything about those people, and neither did Eric Holder. As a matter of fact, he said he didn't want to criticize any religion. Well, I'm sorry, then why is he putting out stuff that says that Christians are potential domestic terrorists? This doublespeak is we've got to be aware of this, that it's going on, and it is a spiritual battle, and it's going to get worse.
And making it worse in Iraq, for instance, the destabilization of the entire Middle East is not a strategic mistake. It's probably part of the strategic plan to make things worse in order to bring perpetual war. This is all by design. Iraq is worse because it was designed that way, wasn't it?
Absolutely. There can't be any other explanation. And anybody who's studied it to any degree, as you have, Pete, knows that that's been the game plan. They've said so. Brzezinski's said it. Kissinger has said it. I mean, all you got to do is look up their own words, and you can see that that's the whole idea.
Petraeus spoke of it when he was a military commander. He said, first, we're going to go to, Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt, Libya, blamity, blamity, blam. They spoke out in the open years ago about their desire to destabilize the Middle East, correct?
Well, I didn't know that Petraeus did. I know that Wesley Clark did.
Oh, Wesley Clark. I'm sorry, not Petraeus. Wesley Clark. You're right.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wesley Clark. Before, I mean, that was televised, I think, if I remember right.
Yes.
And so all of this is laid out, and that goes along with the other principle that they do. They're going to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. It's a spiritual law that these demons, I'm going to call them that these demons have to do. But they may do it subtly. It may not be in clear black and white where you can understand it from front to finish, but they're going to tell you some way in the mainstream media. They're going to tell you in the movies. They're going to tell you in news, any area that they can. They may just print it in white papers, whatever. But the point is, you have to be aware of it. You have to understand that they're totally capable of doing all of these horrible, horrible things. As a matter of fact, in Isaiah 59, if you don't mind me quoting it, this is really important to understand, because these are not the type of people that are your next door neighbor that you love. This is what it says. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's in verse 7 of Isaiah 59. This is what it says. Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity, wasting and despair. Do you understand? These people run to evil. They want it. They relish it. They feed off of it. That's who we're fighting against.
Wow. And I'm also likening their military strategy to what they're attempting to do with the breakdown through civil unrest here in the United States of America. Are they, in fact, and we're discovering that the likes of George Soros, for instance, injecting millions of dollars into Ferguson, into Baltimore, they want to make our problems that are inherent in the inner cities especially worse, don't they? They're going to exploit that, aren't they?
Well, they are, and I think that goes right to what Isaiah said. Domestic front, let's show what they did on the Russian front, on the Ukraine. Ever since the wall went down in Berlin, the relationship between Russia and the United States has been improving. I mean, we've had, trade, we've got businesses and all that. But as soon as the Western powers got a foothold there, they started to undermine Russia. Why didn't we continue to cultivate the good parts of those relationships instead of trying to start attacking Russia through these proxy wars, Ukraine, and all of these things? That's what I'm saying. These people don't like people getting along because they can't get in there and control what it is that they want, which is to take over the resources. And as I've said several times now, with the end game of destroying 90%, if not more, of the world's population.
All right, let's take a look at the crystal ball as it relates to, let's say, a Ferguson or a Baltimore. And if we look into our crystal ball and we look at how we treated Baghdad, Iraq, or in Afghanistan, we can pretty much expect the same result with our military strategy in a foreign land with what the police state and the government intends to do here in every major city in America. I mean, we can expect that Baltimore is not going to be a rejuvenated city at any point in the future. It's going to be even worse with ISIS having parades in downtown Baltimore, right?
Oh, absolutely. I laughed when I hear people saying, the answer, like Al Sharpton, the answer is the federalization of the police. No, that started a long time ago. That's been the problem with the post-training, the Peace Office Standards and Training that started back in the 70s. Oh, it's great to have trained officers, but when you have not the locals, but somebody up above calling the shots and saying whether an officer did what he did was right or wrong or whatever, the point is that the federalization of the police isn't going to be the thing that solves the problem. It's going to cause it to be even worse. So what we saw happen in Fallujah, what we saw happen in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Well, Syria hasn't gone yet, but they're trying to make it go. Libya, we now know that, it's come out now, there are even CIA or Department of Defense documents say that they knew about, the attack on Benghazi and that this whole thing was about arms dealing. All this is starting to come out now. Yes, they're going to do the same thing here. That was all the practice, the balkanization of the world, when people should have been coming closer together with things like the internet, with travel, and so that making us take down those barriers that have been around for so long. We couldn't have that. So they need to divide and conquer, Pete. That's what you're talking.
Yeah. Now, we have just a couple minutes here left. As soon as we have the music, and thank you very much for joining us. I want to as to the police state. There is a debate as to whether or not we need to have community-based policing versus federalization. Having more equipment like body cams, a multi-billion-dollar industry, there's that push there. I see a problem. I just saw something on our TV. There was a video of an Iraq war veteran who literally was in jail for, maybe he went to a checkpoint and he was in jail for a DUI. They beat this guy and pummeled him. Okay. And here's my point, is that the response from the hierarchy was that we did no wrong. I see the problem with our police state is not whether or not it needs to be community oriented or federalized. I believe we need to decorporatize our law enforcement because of the liability associated. Anytime they make an admission that they did something wrong, there's too much liability. And that's why we're going to see time and time again, whether it be the federal government or even the state government or the local municipalities, as long as they're under a corporate umbrella, they will always have that liability over their head. They'll never admit wrongdoing, and we'll always see civil unrest, won't we?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Pete. Exactly. It is about that, but don't forget as well that this was done on purpose so that people would not trust their local police who really, I was in Fort Bragg. I'm going to say this real quick. I was in Fort Bragg, California.
Very quickly. Go ahead.
I camped out on the ocean there, and I knew the police would come and check me. I fully expected them to, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be doing their job. And they did. They came out there and they checked me out because they wanted to make sure I wasn't a rapist or an axe murderer or whatever. They did their job. They were very professional. They did the right thing. Okay? the policing has to remain as close to the local level as it can.
Yes,
but
sir.
they do have to be held accountable
That's right.
for violating the law.
Sir, the fix with our police state is constitutionalization of our police force.
Exactly.
Localization, constitutionalization. There we go. Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter, thank you so much. We'll be in touch, sir. God
Thank you.
be safe. Wow. We'll be back right after the top of the hour news break.